This is Steve Vinson. You're about to experience the life science effect. Hello, aspiring leaders. Welcome to another episode of the Life Science Effect, where we work to answer the question, what does it take for me to be an effective leader in the field of life sciences? Each week, we will talk to the best in the business to answer your questions about what it takes to be a leader in life sciences. The good, the bad, and the ugly. And always be asking yourself, what effect will you cause? So welcome to the first episode. We're with Kristin Jones. Hey, Kristin.
Hi.
And thank you for joining us, by the way.
It's an honor to be here, and it's an honor to be the first.
I appreciate it. And in fact, maybe once I figure out what I'm doing, I'll come back. Give another opportunity.
Correct any mistakes we come up with in that case.
Yeah, we don't even have a name yet, in fact. I haven't even thought of a name. I just know that it's for aspiring leaders in the life sciences.
A good group.
Yeah, it is a good group. And you more than most would know that because you interact with them on a regular basis with IHIF, I would say, right?
Pretty much every day.
Yeah.
Or at least try to.
Okay, so let's get into the interview part. This is me not being an interviewer, so I actually have to say what I'm doing, right? Why did you pick life sciences to begin with?
Oh, I fell into it. It picked me, I think, out of a lot of things. My background is actually in international economics for the most part. I used to help small and medium-sized companies export their products, and a lot of what Indiana exports happens to be in the medical device field. My dad was in the industry when I was growing up. He did medical and regulatory affairs for companies like Zimmer and Miles Labs up in Elkhart. So I knew enough about the industry to be dangerous, but I was armed with a French degree and a master's in public administration. So that hardly prepared me for a deep scientific career. Yeah, but getting into the industry, I've been working with our organization since it got started back in 1994 in some way, shape, or form, and was really fortunate to come on board back in 2007, I think it was now, at a point where the organization was going through some growing pains. And I've been here almost 11 years at this point, and I'm happy to say we've turned the ship around and are doing a really good job, and I'm really happy with where we are and where we're headed.
Excellent. So this was not on my list of questions I sent you, but aside from what the website says, what are those things you accomplish?
Yeah, well, a good place to start is probably who we are and what we do, because there is some confusion out there. The Indiana Health Industry Forum is a trade association for companies in the health and life science space. It's difficult to define because we have a broad umbrella. So we work with pharma and biopharma companies. We have medical device companies in there, digital health, support services, universities, hospitals. It's really where anybody dealing in health and life sciences comes together and has a place to talk about or work on those issues they all have in common. So whether it's workforce development, whether it's advocacy and public policy, whether it's just helping put people who can help each other in the right rooms together and letting them have a critical conversation, that's the kind of facilitation we're there to do. Mm-hmm. The difference between us and a group like BioCrossroads, which is what we're usually confused with, BioCrossroads is an economic development initiative, and they are there to really fill those big gaps in the ecosystem that we have. So they focus on things like funding, the Bioscience Research Institute, which is bringing together all of our strengths in metabolic disease research and really helping put Indiana on a map that way. Mm-hmm. They do a lot of the the bigger picture coordination with the major players.
Yeah.
We work with everybody from the really big guys on down to the startups that are coming out of the universities and springing up on their own in a lot more cases these days. And we just really are there to help our members grow their businesses, reach those next milestones, make logical connections and helpful ones where we can, and really just help them get moving down the path.
Do you have an example of a success story that's come out of one of those interactions? One that you can share. I mean, obviously, there's probly some confidential
Well, they're all
stuff,
there. You know, everybody we work with is sort of on a pathway of their own.
Mm-hmm.
So what we really have tried to do is help them just sort of make it to that next milestone, help them celebrate it when they get to the ones they're working on, figure out what the next one is and how to get there, and really just help them along the path. It depends on the different areas that we're working in. We've had some really good successes on the policy front. Indiana was one of the first states to pass biosimilar substitution legislation back in 2013, which allows you to use biosimilar drugs, which are a different class from anything else out there and needed their own pathway to patients. So we try to help. We try to help make sure that people have access to the therapies that are invented and the things that are invented, that you can do that here and do it easily. So that's part of it. We have 150 members. I could, each of those has their own story, and we're happy to be a part wherever we can and kind of what they're working on.
Excellent. Thank you.
Yep.
Now back on script. It's fascinating.
I can handle those.
When I first came to town in 2005, we moved back after having a child. We had moved to Chicago for a while. It was one of my first stops, was the Life Science Luncheon. And I, like everybody else, got confused with BioCrossroads and IHIF, but I think I figured it out fairly quickly. But it was a good place to meet people. And it seemed like in those days, and I don't know if this is still true, but every other person I met was an IP lawyer.
There are a lot of those in this town. Right? We love them all.
Yeah, that's right. Because, if you're coming out of a university and you have this idea, or you have a prototype or a product, you need
and that's it.
An IP lawyer.
And
right?
that program in particular has been going on. None of us can remember how long it's been going on. We think it started back around 2000, if not maybe a little before that. But that was really there to help make that networking bridge for people. Give them a space where everybody could come together and just do the broad-based networking on a regular basis. So every month we are still getting, 18 years later, we're still getting 70 to 80 people in a room the third Tuesday of every month. And it's a different group every time, which which fascinates me. It's, we get a handful of people who come regardless of the topic, just because they like it and it's good networking, and they're, you always learn something at these, regardless of what your intent may be in attending. But, it really is that great space. You never know who you're going to sit down next to. I've seen a lot of friendships and a lot of partnerships that have been formed as a result of people just sitting down and having some lunch and hearing a little bit more about what's going on out there.
Sounds great. So, and it's a good excuse to head downtown.
It's a good excuse to head downtown. And we really do try to profile leaders in the space. In the industry, give people who may not get a regular voice out there a chance to be on the panel and on the dais a little bit. And, it's a great way to find out what's going on and who's out there.
So when you think about leaders, this is, after all, it aims to be a podcast about leaders. I skipped one.
Yeah, absolutely.
And
That's okay.
And if you're like, I really wanted to answer that one, we'll come back to it. So when you think about leaders in the organizations that you work with, or in your organization, in particular, if you want, what are the characteristics that people are looking for in a leader in life sciences? Yeah,
I can speak a couple different ways about that one. For us, the group I interact with most regularly on that topic is probably our board of directors, and it's roughly 20 people at any given time. And really, what we're looking for there are people who understand our vision and mission. Are willing to buy into that vision and mission, and are willing to lend their time and energy to making that come to fruition.
Mm-hmm.
We're looking, at one point in time early on in this process, we just wanted people for who had the warm and fuzzies for us and appreciated who we were and what we did and wanted to help. Nowadays, we're looking much more for active engagement amongst our board members. And while everybody has had an absolutely invaluable contribution to where we are today, going forward, we're looking for a whole lot more. And I think people are looking for a way to help them. It's a way to make your mark, and it's a way to participate in some meaningful projects. Our strategic plan drives what we do, and right now we're putting the next one into play. So this is a really great opportunity for people to put their mark on things, show their thought leadership, bring their networks to the table, and contribute to what the future is going to look like.
I think that's a great, you triggered a thought is anybody who's aspiring to be involved in the industry or a leader in the industry, organizations like IHIF, or in my case, I've been active in Project Management Institute or ISPE. Those organizations are starved for help. Yours may not be. Maybe people are. It's just me. So yes, door.
I am starved for help.
In general, as I was a board member of one of the PMI organizations, and we needed help all the time. And anybody who raised their hand, it's like, come, we'll give you a shot.
Absolutely.
And it's a great way to get to know people in your industry, to have your name out there. If you're just looking for exposure, it's a great way to do that. But to your point, if all you're looking for is exposure and like, oh, maybe I'll get some business out of this, probably not going to be that useful.
Nope.
You need somebody who believes in the vision and the mission, and who will bring that energy and actually participate. Yeah,
absolutely. It's far more about putting the rubber to the road these days than it's been in the past. And we've got, I can't speak highly enough of our board. They have been a tremendous resource to me over the years. Our folks are really committed to seeing what we're doing, and the way they come together and carry things through is just awesome.
That's
so
great.
I am very, very lucky. I know a lot of people in my role around the country have different relationships with their board, but I am very, very thankful for the folks we have.
Fantastic.
Yep.
The results show. I mean, again, when I first came to town, Mitch Daniels was saying, let's make life science a thing in Indiana. And what was it? Cook and Lilly maybe. And a bunch of other separate companies. But now, I mean, you can feel the community in life sciences.
Yeah.
Indiana is a big life science hub now.
We are a big deal, and we own that. And we shout that loudly wherever we go across the country or around the world. And, people in the industry tend to know Indiana is significant, but we're starting to see more people from outside the industry understand that as well. So
that's good.
That's a good...
Because we're raising our family here, so we want that.
Oh, good.
We want that. Okay, so everybody has the one or two projects they always remember, right? Sometimes for good reasons, sometimes for bad reasons. What's that one project that you remember, let's say for a positive reason?
Oh, gosh.
Just you're really proud of it?
Yeah, the most significant thing. It was the thing I actually came to the forum to do was put together our first strategic plan and the asset map that sort of preceded the whole thing. Mm-hmm. And the way we went about that project, first we went out and we needed to understand the industry and what the landscape looked like in the state. Nobody had done a real comprehensive look around Indiana to find out really what all was out there. We knew there were pockets. We knew who most of the folks were, but nobody had really done the big census of what was out there. Mm-hmm. So we helped organize, we organized, we put that together. We hired the consultants to go knocking on the doors. We used our relationships in the economic development community because nobody knows who's in their community better than the economic development folks.
Oh, right. Gotcha.
Across all 92 counties, those folks were tremendously helpful in telling us who they had, what they were looking for. They were pulling stuff out of the weeds that nobody would ever have turned up, but were all, and most of them still are, very significant assets within the life science business community here.
Mm-hmm.
So starting off with that really initial block of what we had, we were able to look then kind of regionally. We broke it up in back in the day that we were doing this, it was still sort of workforce development, economic development regions that IEDC and the state were using for different purposes. And looking along those lines, really looking at different parts of the state and what their realistic plays were for playing in the industry. You know, everybody wants to go to the big biotech show, but the big biotech show isn't necessarily right for everybody. Mm-hmm. You know, if you're up in Fort Wayne or you're in the Northeast Indiana where medical technology is the number one thing.
Right.
You know, bio's not going to be real helpful to you. You should be looking at the med tech shows.
Yeah.
What are those? How do you get to them? How do you position yourself? You know, why telling a bioscience company that Zimmer is here may not ring their bell so much.
Right.
You know, or telling a cancer company that we have a warehouse, you know, is on an interstate isn't going to interest them so much.
Yeah.
So it was a really interesting way to look at Indiana, give people some tools and resources for ways to talk about what we have in our state. So when we do go out and we do look at our industry and we talk to people out there, we can do it intelligently and comprehensively and really know what our assets are in our backyard.
Yeah.
The third and final phase of that, which took a little longer to put together, but that was really the part I think I'm probably proudest of. And that was our first, it was a 5-year strategic plan. And it was not us telling the industry what we were going to do. It was not a plan for IHIF to execute. It was people from across the industry, as broadly as we possibly could, telling us what their issues and challenges were, how they wanted to see them solved, what tools and resources would be helpful for them in that. Mm-hmm. We had tremendous consensus on what those issues and challenges were. I was thinking, well, we'll do some focus groups, we'll hone it down, we'll run this up and down the flagpole 7-8 times, blah, blah. No, within about 3 meetings, everybody was on the same page with it, which was awesome. And everybody said, those are the things we want you to focus on. These are what we want you to do. Yeah. So as we put that together and we put that into a plan, you know, it made my job so much easier when I went out and said, people are like, Health Industry Forum, what's that? What do you do? And I could slap a plan down in front of them and I say, we're doing the things that all y'all told us you wanted to see done. And those
are the problems. I'm glad somebody's working on it.
Well, that's good to know. It just made that part a whole lot easier.
Great.
So we're working on the next iteration now. And we've done the data gathering. Now we're in the sifting through it again. And again, we've had a lot of consensus in kind of where things need to go. Mm-hmm. Some of it's a little different. I'd like these, it's going to be a shorter term plan with some with more defined action items, follow-up action items. We had some pretty broad things like you should promote Indiana to people outside of Indiana. Okay. Hey. there's not really an end point there.
Rah.
Okay. Okay. Part of the job. Okay. Got it. So that part's there, but that one, you know, and that for both the organization's purposes and my professional purposes, that was the biggest, most comprehensive project I think I've ever worked on, came to the best conclusion and has been a tremendous asset for us.
Wow, that's fantastic. What would be the one thing about that? What was the key to the success of that project? I'm sure there were 50 keys to success.
Yeah, there were a lot of keys. The key to success was the asset map.
Good.
Was the buy-in and the cooperation of the economic development officials from across the state. Mm-hmm. The team of consultants we had that were working on it with us who were top-notch, well-connected, got what we were doing, understood the value in it. We still maintain that database.
What kind of consultants were they? Were they like accountants and stuff, or economic people?
Economic development consultants.
Okay,
yep.
Gotcha. All right.
Yep, people who knew the state, knew the people in the business community, and knew the industry. Were able to bring in some national partners to help do some of the regional analysis pieces. Okay. And again, tremendous knowledge base there.
Great.
So, yeah.
Okay, now for the horror story. Because not everything always works out.
Oh, my God, the horror stories. You know, Fortunately, they always end well, and they always come together. But every annual meeting we've ever done, I was not put on this earth to be an event planner. Oh my gosh.
What is it about those? What is the challenging thing about those?
It's the minutia. It's the minutia that nobody, unless you're in the thick of it on a regular basis, necessarily understands or appreciates. It's the, how many and what size of hors d'oeuvre do you want?
Yeah.
I don't know, enough to feed 60 people. Well, give me the names of the people who are coming a month out. I can't do that. Who's going to program the website? Has the speaker responded? Does the speaker need transportation? Do we have lodging arrangements for, it is all the little pieces that go into that take an unbelievable amount of productive time away from people. And, and there's a lot of it that there's some of it you can outsource. There's some of it you can get folks to help with. And I'm so thankful to some of our volunteers who show up and help with name badges and do all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But, somebody still has to, pay the bills and put the name badge list together and sort that and do all that.
Call the caterer.
Make sure all that stuff's there. And, over the years, invariably, it comes together. It comes off fine. Yeah. But I really can find a lot of better ways to spend my time and energy.
A lot of lost sleep. A lot of late nights.
A week out when 12 people have registered and you're trying to get 150 and you're like, but that's but every year it comes together. The folks show up when I need them. I am very, very grateful to everyone who participates in the stuff we put out there. And
there's always something to be learned, probably.
Oh, for goodness sakes, yeah.
How many years have you done it now?
Well,
11 years?
11.
So compared to the first year, how did the 11th year go?
So I started the day before. We used to do this big conference called Intervention, and I helped with it before I joined the forum officially. I was a volunteer, and they let me do name badges and stuff like that, which is awesome. Yeah. And then the day before I started the day before the 2007 Intervention conference. So that was, wow. Here you go. Here's a headset.
Here's your new project. You're behind schedule.
People. Make sure people get to the right place at the right time. And that was a huge one. I mean, that was at the convention center, and there were booths and exhibitors and speakers and panels and programs. And I mean, it just went on forever and ever and ever. And it was hilarious. But yeah.
All right. Well, let's take a short break. And because I have a lot more questions, but I think we've had some great conversation. So what we'll do is let's start before we take a break. Is there anything else about the forum that you wanted to say or want to tell people about that you didn't get a chance to?
Well, if we're going to focus on leadership development here, this is our organization involvement with a group, any trade association, whether it's IHIF, whether it's a specialized, you mentioned the plastics group, I think it was, or engineering groups. Yeah. Any of those trade associations play a really important role in people's careers and in people's trajectories. And for all those reasons you mentioned, it's a good way to get involved. It's a good way to demonstrate your leadership skills. It's a good way to network with other individuals in all sorts of capacities across the industry spectrum. And whether you're trying to become the next CEO, or whether you're trying to become a project manager, or whether you're just trying to get from the bench to lab assistant. There's always somebody else out there who's either been through that or you can connect with and do it. And groups and events are fabulous, but it's groups like ours and engagement groups like ours that you really make those kinds of connections, and you can make a really important name for yourself and impact on the industry. So get out there and get engaged.
It's a win-win. Yeah, absolutely.
That's the really important part.
That's a good point. Just showing up to a conference is good. But a lot of people, especially us engineer types, aren't super comfortable with meeting people in that in that
That's
forum.
not always, and I'm an
Yeah.
introvert, and I appreciate very much that, being thrown into an audience of 300 people can be a little uncomfortable and disquieting, and you just want to go stand in a corner and find your best friend and talk to them. But sometimes forcing yourself to get out there is good, but we try to offer a variety of things to suit a variety of tastes. So whether it's a small group program or whether it's a really big venue where you can just sit and be part of it and absorb some stuff.
Right.
We try to offer a variety for people.
And if you join a committee or you volunteer, you're going to get to know people on a more intimate basis.
Absolutely.
You'll probably become friends at some point, or you'll learn that you hate each other.
In those cases, a lot of those cases you learn, and particularly for folks who are trying to make a transition out of a science, maybe university-based existence into an industry-based existence, that can be a difficult leap because in a university environment, it's all about you and your research and your publications and your career and your trajectory and blah, blah, blah. But what industry is looking for are people who can be part of a team and can work well with others and understand those skills. So if you're in a place where you don't maybe necessarily have that in your day-to-day existence, being on a committee or being part of something like that can both teach those skills and help you appreciate how those kinds of groups, the dynamics that go into those and how they're organized and run.
Yeah. Great. So get out there and join something.
So go join. Yeah.
Short break. And then are you ready for the rapid fire section?
Ready when you are, Gridley.
Yeah. Very special thanks to our first sponsor this week. It's the Indiana Health Industry Forum. IHIF is a statewide trade association representing Indiana's health science business community. The diverse members of the Indiana Health Industry Forum generate the collective voice of the state's health and life science industry. Their mission is to connect key stakeholders to enhance business networks, advocate for member interests, develop workforce skills, and provide strategic vision in the interest of growing the state's health industry, economy, and reputation. Please take a look at their site for more information. It's ihif.org, and you can learn about how they serve members across Indiana. Their leadership members include companies like Lilly, Cook, IU Health, and some other sponsors of theirs are Roche and Fort Wayne Metals. So please check out ihif.org and check out their sponsors. And thank you so much to Kristin Jones, their fabulous CEO and president, and also thanks to IHIF. Now back to the show. Okay, time for rapid fire. This would be the money round if this were a game show.
I'm ready.
All right, you ready? Finish this sentence. The one principle I will never compromise is... You said you were ready.
I thought I was ready. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. I thought I had written it down too. Own up to your mistakes.
I like that.
Got to do it.
And I make a lot of them. So
well,
I have to own up.
In my life, whether it's something that's gotten dropped or I slip between the cracks, it's always faster and easier just to say mea culpa and mean it and move on.
It's true. A lot of damage can be avoided that way. What's the one thing every aspiring leader should stop doing today?
Expecting people to say thank you.
Love it. What's one thing every aspiring leader should start doing today?
Saying thank you sincerely.
I like it. I like all your answers.
Oh, good.
What book has had the biggest impact on your professional life?
That's a tough one. I read for pleasure, not for that sort of development.
Yeah.
And I spend a lot of my time reading articles and blog posts and reports and stuff throughout the course of the day. I have never been one to read other people's views on how you develop yourself. I think that's one of those skills, either you have it or you don't, and you write your own story in that case.
So we'll read your book when it comes out.
I'm not writing a book. Yeah.
What do you find is the source? You read articles and blogs. Is there one source that you find more valuable?
No, and I consume information from a huge number of sources. And anybody who knows me knows I constantly complain about the amount of stuff in my inbox.
Oh.
But so much of it, you need a balance. You need to take it in from a lot of different sources so you understand what's going on in the industry, what the multiple viewpoints are of how this is impacting something, whether it's a policy, whether it's a new discovery, whether it is funding that somebody's gotten and where that's coming from and what that might mean to people here in Indiana. A lot of what I try to do is connect the dots between all of that information. Who's going to find this useful and who's going to need this tool or this resource that's been developed, or is there a way to connect us with what's happening in some other place?
Yeah.
So it's a lot of time and energy, but it's all there to kind of make that picture a lot more complete, and to really try to understand the landscape out there. It changes a lot. It changes fast. This is an industry that moves very dynamically, and for us to keep particularly our smaller companies who don't have the time to be doing a lot of that on their own. Yeah. If they know that, somebody who has something similar to what they're working on just got money from somebody in this fund or this area, and that might be an opportunity for them, that's a good way to help put those people together intelligently.
It's good knowing somebody's out there doing that. So you read for pleasure. What are you reading now? Oh my gosh.
I read a lot of things to do with history, and the history of things. I'm reading a book about the history of salt right now.
Oh, really?
I've done, one of the recent ones was light and electricity.
Oh, wow.
Which, who knew?
It's so interesting. Wow.
The history of the tulip boom and bust in Amsterdam in the 1600s. Yeah, a lot of.
That's really cool.
A lot of interesting.
Yeah, and these are. Do you read mostly nonfiction then?
Probably.
Gotcha.
Biographies occasionally. Yeah. Mostly old dead people.
Old dead people.
A lot of old dead people.
Got it. It's fascinating. Well, thank you so much for being the first one, the guinea pig.
Well, thank you. If somebody's got to be a guinea pig, I'm happy to be it for this. And thank you very much for having me on. Appreciate it.
All right.
Hope it goes well, and I can't wait to see who else you feature in here.
Absolutely. We're looking forward to it. So I don't know how to end. Thank you.
Thank you.
Maybe I'll record a different ending. All right.
I think that's great.
Yeah. You have just experienced the Life Science Effect. If you liked it, be sure and leave us a review on Apple Podcasts. And more importantly, tell your colleagues, your boss, your friends. It'll make you look smart. Maybe it'll even get you a raise. Thanks again to our presenting sponsor, BPM Associates. Set your medical innovations in motion. BPM helps life sciences companies design, manage, and execute their most complex projects. What effect will you cause? And thanks to today's guest. Let us know who else I should be talking to. Send me an email at steven.vinson@bpm-associates.com. That's all for now. Thanks for listening. Now go make something wonderful happen.